Hi, friends. Welcome. Once again, welcome. So, we are looking at the third session, okay, which brings us to the close of the chapter 5. And we'll be looking more of organizational culture, the types of organizational culture, where Charles Andy likened it to the Greek gods, okay, the names you might have heard Athena, Zeus, Dionysius, okay, Apollo. We'll be looking at them. So we're talking of organizational culture, and we all know what an organizational culture or even what culture is. Okay, so let me share my screen as we proceed with the last segment for this part. Okay, so organizational culture, just hide these floating controls. Okay, so culture in itself, in its sense, culture in its sense, what does it mean? Okay, now, on an ordinary platform, we always will say culture is the way of life of a people, of a group of people, right? From the traditional knowledge that we know. So we're talking of how do we behave, what are our actions as a group of people. The same way in the workplace, you are considered or seen as a group of people belonging to some kind of the same objective, the same orientation. We see you to be one guy, okay, in the same organization. So how do you behave? Now, the way we all do things around here is our culture. Now, Mullins defined it in this way, in this technical way, he's talking of the collection of traditions, the morals, the values, okay, the value system, the policies, beliefs, and attitudes that constitute a pervasive context for everything we do and think of within an organization. So, how all of these core elements underpin our behavior and the way we think, our strategic direction of thoughts in the organization. And then Schwartz and Davis also mentioned defined culture as a pattern of beliefs or expectations that we share as organizational members and which helps us to produce some norms that shape our behavior as individuals and as a group of people in the workplace. Okay. So simply we're talking of the way we do things here in the organization. Now, when you go on to the text, the text actually gives us some elements that it says we should always look out for. It says culture actually has two different levels. We have the observable, the ones we can all see. Okay, the behaviors, the artifacts, the religion, the rituals. I will always wear my UWS badge to identify with UWS staff. But again, there are the unobservable ones. Okay, those are the values, the beliefs that we do not see on the peripheral. So wearing the badge is a sign of personal responsibility to show your belongingness to the workplace, equality within the workplace. Okay. Then the assumptions that we all belong to the same workplace. It helps. But what about the ones we cannot see? The value systems of the workplace. Those ones are quite different. Okay. So there are artifacts and Shine, Edgar Sky, 1992 mentioned that there are artifacts. Okay, there are the espoused values and there are the basic assumptions. Okay, so we're talking of the artifacts, the things that can be seen, that we can hear, that we can observe. They are the artifacts. Okay, the dress code, the tag we put on, the physical symbols we see, the patterns of behavior. Okay, the office layout. That's what we can see. Then we have the espoused values. Okay, these are identified from the stories, the opinions of those within the organization, and we're like looking at the language, the behavior, okay, how people want to justify what they do and link it to the values of the organization. Okay, those are the second element. Then the third one talks of the basic assumptions. Okay, these beliefs they are so deeply ingrained and embedded in the culture that members are no longer consciously aware of them. They do it as a way of life, normal. Okay, it's like waking up in the morning, you know you have to brush your teeth. Nobody tells you, it's part of you. Okay, so we're talking of examples like beliefs on environmental issues, very important to the workplace, to some workplaces. Okay, how people should be treated, human relations, customer services, naturally it flows. Okay, all right. So what shapes our organization? Got our organizational culture. Okay, one, it can be the attitude of the founder Okay, sometimes the one who is spearheading the workplace or the founder, the brain behind it, can shape in the culture of the organization. For example, people like Henry Ford and the Virgin Media guy Richard Branson. It's like they influence the attitude of the workers. Amazon, Jeff Bezos, how he treats workers with so much compassion and love, defines the culture of the organization. So whenever you're chatting with any Amazon customer service rep, you feel that kind of love, that feminist ethics, care and love, always showing compassion. Okay. And then also we can also talk of influence by prevalent attitudes at the time that organization began. So what was happening at that time? A typical example we are looking at is the London Underground system. Okay, now we say currently the London Underground is still strongly influenced by its culture from the 1920s when it was established. Okay, at that point there were a lot of its now iconic features which we see. Okay, talk of the tube map, the roundel, the font when they were commissioned. And still today you see it characterizing the London Underground system. Okay, talk of even the London bus design, how they design it. You see, it's quite unique. Okay, so again, organizational culture can also be shaped or affected by the local and national culture, historical foundations that can always be linked to the organization. Okay, so for example, talk of Scotland here. Look at the Argyle Arcade off the Buchanan Street, the doorman there. Historic. You see it, okay? The House of Parliament, compared to some devolved assemblies. Quite historic, okay? So these are things which will sometimes shape in the the culture of the organization. Even with Paisley. Look at the Paisley Town Hall, even Glasgow City Chambers. They have a sense of some historical past attached to them, importance to them. Very important it attached to them. Okay. Culture gives us some advantages. In every organization with a culture, there are some advantages. It helps us to lessen the need for tight control because we do it naturally. It flows, and we know nobody has to even remind us. Okay. It can be also be a source of motivation to us because it's like we're all singing the same song. Okay. And it has a potential not only to drive change, but also in certain circumstances to prevent it from taking place. Okay, so it helps, in fact, with reformation at the workplace. It can also provide a framework of social identity and a sense of belonging because it's like a family unit that you are joining. So you don't have to isolate yourself because we are all the same family. We are all KPMG. We are all UWS. We are all British gas. So you're coming in, and in fact, sometimes people will even save your name with a name. Your last name becomes the name of the company, Richard KPMG, just to identify you that you belong to that KPMG class, Richard UWS. Okay, that's how it happens, and it also helps to regulate behavior and norms amongst the organization. I know I'm part of UWS, so what I'll have to do is that I behave like what all other UWS staff do. I don't have to be outside the scope to disgrace the organization. Okay. All right. Then we also have disadvantages of having a strong culture. So a strong culture is sometimes difficult to change. It's like a decree. It's like a Persian law where you cannot change. Sometimes difficult. Now, it may also have a blinkered view which impacts the drive for innovation or new ideas. If you're not careful, it will stifle innovation. You always have to work towards the status quo. You cannot think outside the box, no creativity. Very restrictive, okay? And again, it is negative sometimes and can have a negative effect in the workplace. So if you get a negative culture existing in the workplace, it will have a negative impact on the overall organization. Okay. There are more you can also think of. Okay. A strong culture may not be attuned to the environment. A strong culture, a strong innovative culture is only appropriate in a dynamic shifting environment. So if it is static, then it is not the right thing. Okay. So we can think of this. When you take the text, you'll find more examples there. Okay. Now, like I'm saying, Charles Handy did a research and came out with these different types of organization in terms of their culture and linked it to these Greek gods. Okay, he linked it to these Greek gods. We'll use that one to wrap up the study and then we'll leave it there. Now, Zeus. You might have heard of Zeus, right? The king of the gods or the god of the gods, the champion of the gods. And so when we talk of Zeus, we're talking of power, power culture, okay? And then we're talking of Apollo role, playing some key role, okay? Then Athena, the fighter, the strong woman, the goddess of war. Sometimes they call it goddess of war. And then we're talking of Dionysius, person-oriented culture, having that love for human beings, okay, for humanity. Okay, now let's take it one after the other, and then we can wrap up. Okay, so Zeus, talking of one major source of power, so the boss. The boss is the one driving the change. Okay, these are normally organizations controlled by a central figure, the owner, and it normally exists with smaller or medium-sized organizations because the figurehead, the ceremonial head, the one we always see is the owner, is the founder, okay, the manager. So power is normally direct. Personal decisions are made with short, with decision chains are short, with few rules and procedures, and it is all about one person initiating it, one person driving it. Now, to be able to work in such an organization, you must get on well with the personality of the owner. You must be able to identify with this owner, otherwise, you are out of the game. So, normally, like I said, such an organization will likely be small, sometimes medium size, okay, and they are capable of adapting quickly to change. And you must always work in line with this. Identify with the power source, with the Zeus, okay. Then Apollo, the role culture, and Apollo is looking at where we're talking of a classic hierarchy. Okay, so we are talking of follow the rules and the organogram. Okay, suited to larger organizations, structured where we have laid down rules, bureaucracy, follow them. And it is more like everyone does their job well, but a little extra. Okay, so this culture is more suitable to a stable, predictable environment, but of course, they are likely to have some changes when we want to make some changes. We have some difficulties when we want to make changes, and sometimes it's not easy to make quick decisions because it must go through all the chains before you get to the final level. Okay. Now, if you work in such an organization, you must get on with your boss, yes, and you must also get on with the system. Understand how the system works. Because with the role, Apollo culture, we are talking of systems, hierarchy, rules, and procedures. And we must follow, we must abide by the rules. Major examples would be like the public sector. You cannot just get up and sign a check. It goes through the systems, the approval limits before you will be able to get the final endorsement done. Then we have the Athena. Athena talks of the task man. Okay, in this scenario, the work is more important. The output is more important than the process, than the human beings, than the structure. Get the work done. That's what we need. Okay. So there is no dominant or clear leader. Performance is only judged by results. It's the output that we want to see. Get it done. That's what we want to see. Okay. So here teams will form tasks and the strength is in the team because the teams together will work to achieve the overall objectives. It can be expensive because we want the task to get done to be done. Therefore, we need to get experts, and getting these experts sometimes comes at a cost because you need to pay them well to sustain them or keep them in the task. Okay, and when you make one mistake, it could be very costly because at the end of the day, assuming an expert making a mistake, because everybody will rely on that output from the expert, and it could cause serious damage to the organization. Now, anyone who works in such an organization has to get on with their colleagues because it's a teamwork. Okay, get on with their colleagues. That's the main thing they want over here. And any team, any project that has this approach, normally project will have this approach. And any project who have this approach will always might ensure they get some technocrats, technical expertise within their group to ensure that it is worth having this caliber of expertise in the group who will help us to achieve our outputs and bring out desired results. Okay, that is the the Athena task. Okay, usually they are very creative, they are very skilled. Okay, they know their task. Okay, so when they make a mistake, it's a serious task. Normally, find the doctors, the medics, the surgeons, Very clever guys. They know their task. The net result is that save a life. So if they are able to save a life, that is it. But assuming they make a little mistake, somebody will die in the theater room. Okay, that's the task culture. And then we have the Dionysius person culture. So here they are talking of satisfying the needs of the individual. It's not about the work. No, it's not about the output. It's not about power and systems. It's about the individual. Okay, try to satisfy them. And it normally happens in situations where we have clubs, partnerships, okay? So we want to serve the interests of the individuals who make up the club or the partnership. If you work in such an organization, you must get on well with your fellow partners, okay? Now, let me expand slightly on this. So, like as I'm saying, it is dealing with clubs and partnerships. You must get on with your fellow partners. So examples could include small accounting partnership firms, legal or law firms, small ones, okay, not bigger ones, of course. Some specific consulting engineers, engineering service providers, yes. So specific, simple skills, okay. Now, the success, I said, depends on the talent of the partners in question, okay? And the management is by consent. So do all the partners agree to the approach we are using, to the policies we are using, okay? Other positions in the firm are likely to be subordinate to the partner group. So we will have some secretaries who will support the partner group, okay? The reception, the finance office, they are all like auxiliary services supporting the lead at the top, okay? Now, what we want to say is that in some respect, this um, Handy's scenario comes with some criticisms. Okay, could we have an organization that has a blend of all of this? Yes, yes, we'll always have. Okay, so it could not only just be standalone. Those are the when I always look at things like this. I examine the context of merging them, integrating them, and you could have an organization merging the power with person or person with structure. Okay. At the end of the day, person is more important. So if you satisfy the need of the individual, person will also be automatically moved to service or serve your interest. Okay. Now, what we want to look at now is that in the context of an organizational culture, we should always consider it as an invisible bond that ties the people together. We all close, we all go home, but we are still a family. I still pick my phone and call my colleague David and ask him. So though we are far apart, but we are still a family. So the bond is still there. You are worried with anything, the first thing you think of is to call your colleague you share the office with. Okay, sometimes you have a family issues, you have some technical issues, some health issues, you are robbed. And I remember when I got robbed some time back, the first thought that came into my mind was to call my workplace colleague. Okay, that tells you that there's that bond tying you guys together. Different cultures across the world will have different diversities to the way of life. Culture is related to the individual belief systems and attitudes, but in an organizational culture, the individual attitudes are sometimes dropped and then the organizational one takes preeminence. Okay. Now, it is always important for us to know that the influences on organizational culture depends on the size of the organization, size in terms of staff number, the number of employees, or size in terms of the turnover, the revenue we make. Okay. It also depends on the technology in terms of what processes do we use, what IT system do we leverage on, what automation system do we use in getting our products and services out. Okay. And then diversity in terms of product range. Okay, not diversity in terms of the human factor we looked at. We're talking of diversity in terms of product range, geographical spread, okay, cultural makeup of the stakeholders. So we're talking of a blend of all. Okay. Then we talk of history. History also depends, okay, shaping it. So we're talking of the historical foundation. What has worked well in the past? Are we ready to learn from our past mistakes and to leverage on the historical foundations that has caused us to get to this far? Always, it is important. If we forget what has happened in the past, then we'll have the cause to fear for what is ahead of us. But if we remember how far we've come with our historical foundations guiding us, we can always have the hope and aim to head towards the future. And finally, we're looking at the ownership. Okay, the age of the business manager, the the orientation of the business manager, the one who started his whole thing. What is it? What is his orientation as at now? Is he still supporting the belief system, or he has changed altogether? Okay, so we looked at this again. We looked at advantages of strong culture at the beginning. I want to just wrap up again saying that when we have a strong culture, it improves coordination, communication, provides a framework where we identify that we are in the same group, okay, reduces differences amongst members, strife, grievances, conflict tend to reduce. And of course, it strengthens dominant values and attitudes, regulates behavior. You don't want to live a life that will bring shame or disreputation, or it will bring the reputation of the company into question, okay? And it affects the strategy, the ability to respond to change. Like I said, if you have a strong culture, it could also have a disadvantage where we cannot change, difficult to change, and blank view, which can affect the ability to learn new skills amongst others. Okay, all right. So I'll leave it here, folks. I'll leave it here. I think in this very one, we saved few minutes, up to 22 minutes. Okay, so that's it. So the next session, the next week one, or the next session, we'll be looking at the same controlling performance from different angles. Okay, we're looking at controlling performance, and that is chapter 6 of the book. All right, friends, these are things you know. We just want to add some technical dimensions to it to make it more professional. See you soon. Bye for now.